Good afternoon to all. In the previous lab session, we started our tutorial 4 and we did some of the basic functionality in your project. We discussed about the basic concepts when we work with the Laravel, like what is a view, what is a route, where you can find the folder for your controller, what is the need of it. Okay, all these things we already discussed in your previous lab session. Just quickly revise the things, then we go ahead with the in today's lab session. We are more focusing on the database part. Okay, how to fetch the data and what are the different approaches for that we will see in this particular lab session. Before we go ahead with that, just revise the previous lab session, the basic concept of your Laravel. Okay, what do you mean by controller and why it is required? What is controller? Why it is required in your project? Anybody?
એમ
Yes, Mojil.
તો 3 જણાનું ગ્રુપ નહીં હાલે.
No, two-person is allowed, but if one person is not seated anywhere, then I am
તો
allowing.
આપણે ઈ જ કહીએ. એક જણો વધે એટલે અમે 3 જણા રહી જાય.
Okay, fine. Then I am allowing to you.
એટલે
Otherwise,
ત્રણ
two. Okay, fine, Mojil. Who
એટલે
are the
ત્રણ
others?
જણાનું કરી નાખે ને.
For your group, it is fine. Otherwise, others, just maximum two-person is allowed. Who are the other team member, Mojil?
હા. હું, હર્ષ અને રિધિ.
Okay. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Teshika is saying that controller handle the logic. Okay, very good. So whenever you work with the project, first of all, you have to create a view. Okay, what are the steps for it? First, you have to create a view so that you have an idea like what is the look and feel of your particular web app. Next is you have to create a function in your controller part. Okay, why you are creating the function? So that you can put the logic of your particular requirement. Either you want to go ahead with the database part, or maybe in some of the case you want to pass parameter to some other pages. Okay, so definitely you have to create a function in your controller part. And next, third step, whatever the function that you created in your controller, first thing that you have to make a route for it. Otherwise, nothing will be displayed in your web app. So make sure routing concept you have to remember when you create any new thing. Either you want to create a function, you just register your route. Otherwise, it will not call. Okay, if you create a view, then definitely you just register your route. Otherwise, the previous approach that we follow, like you create a function and return your view inside your function. So that way also you can proceed. I'm just presenting my screen. Okay, so in the previous lab session till here, we discuss how we can create an entire design of your web app. So I already told you if we are starting with the scratch part, it take a lot of time. So what you can do, you just use the Bootstrap. Okay, Bootstrap will help you to reduce your overall development time. Okay, and you know it is a very basic concepts. Okay, what you have to do, we are creating here a layout. Why we are creating this layout? Because in each and every page, the menu bar and the footer and the sidebar, all those things are same. Okay, so that's why we are creating layout, and inside that layout we are just importing our css and the javascript file for our bootstrap. Okay, If you are not present in the previous lab session, you can refer the video. Quite easy concept is that wherever you want to use the bootstrap, you just include this file, and this file is already available in your bootstrap. So what you have to do, you just search out like bootstrap. I'm using version 4. You can use any of the latest version, and there is no major difference in that. Go to the official documentation of your bootstrap, and there you will find the CSS and JavaScript file. Just a second. Okay, as you can see here, this is your CSS file. What you have to do, just a second. Okay, now, so this is your CSS file. This link you have to copy and you have to paste inside your layout.blade.php file. Why? Because otherwise what happens, in each and every page you have to copy this link and paste it, and it become a tedious task. So what we are doing, we are using templates in any of the other version, right? So templates provide us the overall structure of our web app, right? So here what we are doing, we are creating our own layout, and where we are importing our CSS and the JavaScript that is already given. Just copy from this JS. Okay, just copy it and paste that. Okay. And then after, different components are also ready made, like if you want to create a menu, then just search for it like navbar bootstrap 4. So in the previous lab session, we create this menu. Now, in this lab session, we are not focusing on this homepage part because it is very static information. You just take a bootstrap design like a div, 3 sections are there. Okay, just modify it, and according to that, you can prepare the design of the homepage. But whatever the functionalities are there, we are focusing more on that part. So in this lab session, we have worked with this listing part. Where, yes, anybody? You have any doubt? Okay. So what we are doing here in listing part, when I click on listing here, my all the data from the database will be displayed inside this page. So I'm just fetching the data and displaying into the table form. It is your project. You either want your data in some other format, like in div you want to print, that also fine, because once you do something different, you will get more knowledge about it. So what I'm doing here, I'm just creating a view for this, because when I click on this, it will redirect to some page. So what is my first steps, that I have to create a view for this list. Okay, that I already told you, once you create a new page, at that time you have to create a new view. So how you can do this, just right click on a view, new file, and here you have to give the name of it. So for listing, I'm just giving list.blade.php. Okay, why we are using this blade.php? Because it is interpret as your template. Okay, now this blank file is created. Now we are not starting from the scratch. What we are doing, we are just copying this home.blade.code. Why? Because we have to extend our layout here also. Okay, जब भी मैं ये listing page पे click करूँगी तो menu bar मेरा same रहेगा. So that is inside my layout.blade.php file. So definitely I have to extend it. That's why I'm just copying this entire code and paste inside my list.blade.php file. Okay, and inside this, instead of home page 1, what I'm doing here, list of restaurant. Now what is my next step? So next step is either you directly create a view for it. So for that you have to go into the web.php file. Okay. Whatever the routing concept are there, all those routes you have to mention here. Otherwise nothing will be displayed in your web app. So don't forget this thing. Okay. So how I can just display this page, that is the list of restaurant, right? How I can display that part. So generally you can directly call the view here, but what is the disadvantage for it? For example, in some of the page, you want to put the logic. Okay, so definitely you have to create a function in your controller part. So you have to make the route for that also. And another is a view part. So two route is needed for displaying the view and calling the function. बट मैं कुछ ऐसा करूं कि मुझे एक ही राउट क्रिएट करना पड़े, तो मैं कैसे कर सकती हूँ? देन आई क्रिएट अ फंक्शन. Inside that function, I'm just returning my view. That thing we already did in our previous case. Okay, just a second. I'm just going back to our controller part. Here, this one. We already did this thing. We create a one function and inside that we are returning our view. और अभी आपको कुछ लॉजिक लिखना है तो यहाँ पे आप इजीली लिख सकते हो. तो आपको ओनली एक ही क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा, जो भी आपका राउट है वो एक ही रजिस्टर करना पड़ेगा. दूसरा केस बताया उसमें क्या करना पड़ता कि होम के लिए लाइक ये व्यू के लिए भी आप अगर दूसरा राउट करते और जो भी लॉजिक लिखते उसके लिए भी आपको दूसरा राउट क्रिएट करना पड़ता. तो बेटर कि आप ऐसा करो कि फंक्शन बना दो और उसमें ही आप जो व्यू है वो रिटर्न करा दो, ताकि यहाँ पे बहुत सारे राउट रजिस्टर ना हो. अदरवाइज you may get confused or other people or developer will also get confused. So what we are doing here, now next step is we are creating the function for this listing. Function list. Okay. And inside this, I'm just returning my view. Which view I want to return? Can anybody tell me? What is the name of that view? What I have to write here? Uh, specifically listing part, that is fine, but we have to write the name of that file. Okay, so in our case it is a list. Okay, so don't just confuse here. This is your own text and this is your file name. So whatever the file name of view list view is there, that you have to pass here. So in my case it is a list, so I'm passing that part. Okay, now what is the next procedure? So after creating the function, now you have to make the route for it. Otherwise वो कॉल ही नहीं होगा. ये फंक्शन आपको कॉल करना है तो आप कैसे कर सकते हो? Then go to the web.php file and here just copy this entire thing. Just copy this entire thing and paste here. Okay, instead of index, what I have to write, that is the list, because I am calling the list function. अब यहाँ पे आपको path देना है. That path means whenever user come to your web app, at that time they are just giving some of the path like /list will be there. So when user just go ahead with this part, at that time listing page will be displayed here. So whatever the path that you given here, according to that here page will be displayed. तो ऐसा कंपलसरी नहीं है, कोई भी नेम दे सकते हो, बट जनरली जो भी आपका फंक्शनैलिटी होता है उस हिसाब से आप नेम देते हो. तो यहाँ पे मेरा लिस्ट है, दैट्स व्हाई आई एम जस्ट गिविंग /list. नाउ जस्ट चेक इट आउट, ये वर्क कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है. Okay, now just write here /list. Okay, so it is working. You can see here my list page is display here. But यूजर जब भी ये लोकल होस्ट कॉलन 8000 ओपन करेगा तो उसको पता नहीं होगा कि ये कौन सा पाथ आपको देना है. यूजर क्या करेगा? यूजर तो यहाँ पे क्लिक करेगा, उस हिसाब से आपको यहाँ पे कंटेंट चेंज करना है. तो उसके लिए मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? ये पाथ है, मुझे ये जहाँ पे ये कोड है वहाँ पे href में ये देना पड़ेगा. सो ये पूरा नेव बार का कोड कहाँ पे लिखा है? दैट इज इनसाइड द layout.blade.php file. Okay, so come back here and here listing will be there. Okay, and inside that listing here href is there, and there you have to write like slash list. Okay, that is the appropriate way. Okay, so I'm just again refreshing it and check it out it is working or not. So I'm first going into the home part. So it is working perfectly. I'm just going into the listing part. It is working perfectly. As I click on listing part, my list of restaurant page will be displayed here. Is there any doubt till here, students? What we do, first step, we create a view, create a function in your controller and just make a route for it. Then we see this page. And for every different page, you have to do same procedure. So is it clear? And do it parallelly, students, so that you don't confuse anywhere. How many of you are doing in laptop currently? How many of you have a laptop right now? Okay, what about the other? Okay. So, Parth and Ishika, if you need some file, just pose me. Also, Dev. Okay. If you lag behind, just pose me there. Just tell me like wait for 5 minutes or 2 3 minutes. Okay. So that you and we do this thing parallelly. What about the other students? Why you don't have a laptop? I already told you now. You have to come with laptop. Yes, yes, Parth. So just what is the first step? First create this list.blade.php file. Okay. Then you just copy the code of home.blade.php and paste here and just modify this text. Once you're done with that, just acknowledge me. And if you need some other file, just tell me. Okay, Dev, what you can do, you just refer the video. Okay, so that when you come in next lab session, so whatever we did in last two lab session, we are on the same page. Okay, and you can perform the in the probably whenever the next lab session will be there, we complete this entire project. Today we will focus on the insert part and fetch data part. Then after we go ahead with the edit, delete and log in, log out, all these things we will perform. So currently what happened, like you don't have a grip on this part. Once you practice for this, you have a grip on this part. Like first I have to create a view, then make function for it. Okay. Okay, fine. Maybe you have a test, right? In the last lab session, some students have a the TCS test. Okay, fine. But at least practice. Otherwise, you may confuse like we are switching from one file to another file continuously. That's why. Or what you can do, you just okay. I'm just trying here. In layout.blade.php file, we did nothing. We just here provide a slash list. Now, what is the slash list that is come here? In web.php, you just register your path, and whenever your path is registered, at that time you have to provide here some text. So whatever you path put here, that same path you have to give inside this layout.blade.php. पहले आप व्यू क्रिएट कर दो, दूसरा आप फंक्शन क्रिएट करो, तीसरा आप web.php में उसको रजिस्टर करो, एंड फोर्थ वन इज यू जस्ट पुट हियर दैट path name. Now where your function will be there, so your function will be inside the resto controller.php, where all the function and all the logic will be there. This code we didn't write from the scratch. What we do, we just take it from the bootstrap, neo-bar bootstrap, and just copy it and modify it accordingly. Path, you want that function resto.controller.php file. That part is completed. This one. Okay, and then after you make the route for it. This one. Okay. Clear? Completed till here? Okay. Can we proceed now? Fine. Which error you will get? Parth, just present your screen. Okay, I can see your screen. Maybe some closing parenthesis is not there. Just go inside this file, resto controller. Just semicolon, put semicolon there. Okay, just save it and go ahead with that part. Refresh it. Fine. Okay. Even in the Laravel, they are just giving a very good error handling part. They are just saying the line number also and what kind of error is there. So we can easily solve it. Fine. Okay. Now what I have to do here, till here we create one page. Now what is my next task? So my next task is I have to fetch all the data that is stored inside my database. अब मुझे यहाँ पे fetch करना है, that means at least मेरे database में कुछ data तो होना चाहिए. Okay, so for that what you have to do, just I'm saying that two approaches are there. First is you can use this traditional approach that you are using in your PHP, like you just go into the PHP myadmin, create a restro database, and inside that you have to create the restaurant table. Generally the table name you have to give the ruler, so make sure you just give your restaurants, or restaurant is also fine. This is the traditional approach that we are following to create a database and create a table. Second approach is you can use the concept of database migration. Through that also you can create the tables and different field. Okay. For that you have to fire some of the commands. So first you have to create the database that you just create through PHP myadmin, but you can create this function, this tables using the migration concept. Okay, so what is that migration concept? So whenever you want to create a schema, okay, or whenever you want to create or modify your database, at that time you can use this database migration concept. Now, for that, different commands are that you have to fire, okay, and accordingly your tables will be displayed in your code part. So once you fire the command, you will see here the migrations. That I will provide the demo of it. First you understand the traditional approach, then we go ahead with the advanced part. Okay, so otherwise it will become confusing for you. So once we do the traditional approach, then we go ahead with the migration part. Okay, I'm just closing all those things. Okay, if we are creating your database table through the migration, then you can see inside this database folder migrations are there, and here the different table that you create, all those tables are displayed here. So this is the by default three tables is generated when you create a project. At that time by default three tables are generated. One is like create a user, okay, another is like password related table, like if you forgot the password, then create forgot password related will be there. And third one is any failure job is there, then the create a failed job table will be there. Now how you can create a field means here in our restaurant id, name, email and address is there, okay. So how I can create this column through this migration concept. So this, whenever you create a table, these all are the by default things will be there. What you have to do, you just use this kind of thing, like dollar table, then id is my first column, name, that is here, that is the here you have to give the data type of it and the name of that column. Same way, email, if you want to go ahead with the unique, then you can provide it. Last one is the password. So this way you can provide the columns for it if you are using the database migration concept. सो उसमें क्या होता है कि आपको ये पूरा का पूरा PHP MyAdmin एक्सेस नहीं करना पड़ता है. थ्रू दिस कोड you can add the different column. Okay, so I will give you the demo of it, but first we go ahead with the initial traditional approach that you already know. So everybody just create a REST database, whatever the name you can give. But when I say that in this code, you have to put here a database name. So whatever the name you given here, that name you have to remember. Inside that restaurant table that you have to create an ID, name, email and address. This four column that you have to create. ID is auto increment and primary key. Make sure you just do this change. ID is auto increment and primary key. Okay. So just I'm giving 2 to 3 minutes, and if you need more time, then just let me know. Just create a database and restaurant table. Then we can go ahead with the eloquent part. At least add some of the one or two record so that whatever the data is fetched, you can see in your web app. Inside here you can see, अगर यहाँ पे कुछ डेटा ही नहीं होगा तो यहाँ पे कुछ डिस्प्ले नहीं होगा. So it at least insert one or two column or row. Sorry. Once you're done with this part, just acknowledge me. Then what about the other students? Then, okay, fine. I'm waiting for you. Just acknowledge me. Everybody just parallelly do it so that if you got any error, you can resolve right now. Sagar, are you there? Sagar, are you there? Okay. What about Dev? At least write down some steps or sequence so that you can easily cop up with that when you refer the previous video. Ishika, done? Once done, just acknowledge me. Okay, fine. So after creating the database and after creating some records in your table, what is the next step? The next step is you have to fetch the data, right? Now, in the traditional approach, how you fetch the data? Anybody remember the steps that we did in the tutorial one? How we just fetch the data? For that, we are using like MySQL underscore connect function for connecting your database, right? First, you have to connect. Yes, start with the connection. Very good. Then after, we are going ahead with the, yes, select query. And we are just going ahead with the execution of our query. And whatever the records are there, we are just displaying in our appropriate format. Now, all this part you can omit whenever you use the Laravel. एक बात याद रखो, लारावेल अगर आप यूज कर रहे हो तो उसमें आपको कभी भी क्वेरी लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. वॉट एवर द क्वेरी दैट यू राइट ऑन योर ट्रेडिशनल अप्रोच लाइक सिलेक्ट स्टार फ्रॉम द स्टूडेंट्स, those are eliminated in this Laravel. So who did these things? There may be some module, there is some alternative of it so that we can omit that part. So remember, whenever you have to deal with your database part, at that time, eloquent concept will be there in your Laravel. Now, what is this eloquent? So this eloquent is nothing but it is your Laravel default ORM. Now, what is ORM? Can anybody remember the full form of it? If you learn this thing in your lecture, definitely you get the idea. What is this ORM? Okay, this ORM is Object Relationship Mapper. Now, what is the task of this? So, whatever the data is here in your database, it is mapped here in your code part, and then after it will display in your web app. So, who will map all those things? So, that is the concept of eloquent, and you can perform this eloquent using models. Okay, you have to create a models so that you can fetch and insert, update and delete your data in your database very easily. So if you are creating the model, half of the task is reduced. Okay, there is only one statement that you have to fire and your model is created. Now what is the task of this model? So model will automatically configure with your database. How it will configure, that I will tell you. But first is you have to configure your database. जो भी आपका database name है वो मुझे configure करना है. How I can connect to this database? First is a connection part, right? तो उसके लिए मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? Go to your .env file. In the whenever we go ahead into the introduction part, at that time I already told you that whatever the database configuration things are that you have to modify here. So you don't have to write like select star from the database or table name or like MySQL underscore connect. Okay, whatever the parameter that you are passing, like MySQL underscore connect, then you are passing the host name, then the database name, username and password. You can see here all the fields are here. When you configure your database, only this part is important for you. So even this, some of the fields you don't have to change it because by default it is same in our case also, like db underscore connection. So in which type of database you want to connect? So in our case the database name is mysql. And how you get to know like what are the different kind of databases support by your Laravel? So what you have to do, you just go to the config file, config folder, go to the database.php. You will see here what are the different supportable databases there. Okay, first is a SQLite, MySQL, then after PGSQL, okay, and SQL SRV. These four are supportable by your Laravel. So from this you get to know, okay, this is the supportable by Laravel. Come back to, you don't have to change anything here in your database.php file. You, whatever the database related configurations are there, you have to compulsory change inside your .env, that is your environmental file. तो ये आपको चेंज नहीं करना पड़ेगा बिकॉज हमारा डेटाबेस है वो MySQL है. नेक्स्ट इज योर होस्ट नेम. So in our case it is a local host, so this is the IP address for the local host. So even this also we don't have to change it. Port number, don't change here anything. If you get some error or connection error will be there, then after you have to change it, otherwise you don't have to change it. Next is database name. So this is the important part, that whenever you have to connect to your database, this database name that you have to provide. So in my case, what is the name of my database? What is the name of my database in this one or this one? Restro or restaurant? I'm asking about the database name. What about the other student? What are your answer? Yes. Okay, in my case database name is resto and table name is restaurant. Okay, जब भी आप ये folder open करोगे उसके अंदर आपको सारे के सारे table यहाँ पे दिखेंगे. तो resto is my database name. So in the environmental file you have to give here the name of your database. So in my case it is a resto. So this is the only thing that you have to change, and it will automatically configure with your database, and that's it. You don't have to write like connection and all this thing. So in our case, username is root and password is blank. If your control panel has some password, then just put here that password. Otherwise, in most of the case, it is a blank. So just save it. And when you change anything in your environmental file, make sure you just restart your server. So generally, in most of the cases, automatically it will restart. If it is not, then just quit, Control C, that means quit, and again fire PHP artisan serve, so that your database configuration done successfully and properly. So remember that step when you change anything in your environmental file, you have to restart your server.
મેમ
So अभी तक मैंने, yes पार्थ,
મેમ આપણે આ ડેટાબેઝ નેમ છે ઈ હું ઘણા મેં એકાદ પ્રોજેક્ટમાં બે બે ડેટાબેઝ લીધા હોય અને કર્યા હોય તો મલ્ટિપલ ડેટા
yes,
બી ચાલે.
you can do this, but for that what happened, one is the admin panel is there. Generally we are not creating too much database, we are creating too much tables inside that. ओके बट अगर आपका जो भी प्रोजेक्ट है उसमें एडमिन पैनल है तो उसका अलग डेटाबेस होगा, प्रोजेक्ट लाइक यूजर साइड है तो उसका अलग डेटाबेस होगा, तो उसके लिए आपके ये दो डिफरेंट प्रोजेक्ट होंगे। और उसमें क्या करोगे आप, राउट में ऐसा करोगे कि वो दोनों कनेक्ट हो जाए, तो आप कर सकते हो बट उसके लिए प्रोजेक्ट है वो डिफरेंट होगा। आर यू
બટ
गेटिंग
મેમ
माई पॉइंट?
ઈ કઈ રીતે કઈ ખ્યાલ નથી આવતો.
ओके, ये पूरा का पूरा आपका क्या हुआ, एडमिन पैनल हुआ। अगर मुझे यूजर पैनल बनाना है तो मैं क्या करूंगी, ऐसा सेम प्रोजेक्ट बनाऊंगी, उसमें मेरा डेटाबेस है वो यहाँ पे चेंज कर दूंगी। अब दो अलग अलग प्रोजेक्ट हो गए, एक मेरे एडमिन साइट है, दूसरी कौन सी है, यूजर पैनल है, राइट। अब मैं इन दोनों को इंटीग्रेट कैसे करूंगी, तो अगर आपको अगर ऐसा रखना है तो जनरली क्या होता है कि आप एक पैनल बनाते हो जिसमें स्विच कर सकते हो। अगर एडमिन का लॉगिन किया तो एडमिन पैनल ओपन होगी, यूजर का लॉगिन किया तो यूजर वाला होगा। ओके,
બટ
जनरली वी
બટ ઈ
आर,
change કેમાં કરવાનો?
यस,
ઈ ચેન્જીસ કેમાં કરવાના ઈ જે કરવું હોય તો?
आपको यहाँ पे दो फाइल अलग अलग क्रिएट करनी पड़ेगी। ये कैसा हमारा एक रेस्टोरेंट प्रोजेक्ट है, ये वाला आप यहाँ पे देखोगे तो ये रेस्टोरेंट वाला है। सेम वे यहाँ पे दूसरा प्रोजेक्ट बनाना पड़ेगा, फाइल नहीं बनानी है आपको, दूसरा प्रोजेक्ट ही बनाना है जो एडमिन के लिए या यूजर के लिए होगा। अगर ये एडमिन पैनल है तो यूजर पैनल अलग होगी आपकी। आर यू गेटिंग माई पॉइंट?
યસ
तो
મેમ.
जब भी आप,
એટલે
जब भी जब भी यहाँ पे आप लॉगिन करोगे उसके हिसाब से डेटाबेस में मैप होगा। अगर आप लॉगिन करोगे तो उसमें अगर एडमिन का यूजर नेम पासवर्ड होगा तो आप चेक करोगे कि ये एडमिन है, उस हिसाब से आपका यहाँ पे चेक होगा, मैप होगा, और उस हिसाब से आपकी पैनल है वो ओपन होगी। जब हम लॉगिन और रजिस्टर वाली फंक्शनलिटी करेंगे ना तब आपको ज्यादा आइडिया आएगा इसमें।
ઓકે મેમ.
ओके, क्योंकि उसमें क्या होता है कि अगर दो पैनल है तो आपको चेक करनी पड़ेगी कि ये कौन सी पैनल में जाएगा। ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि एडमिन ने लॉगिन किया और यूजर पैनल दिखेगी, तो उसके लिए आपको अलग अलग से, जनरली हम अलग टेबल ही बनाते हैं, बहुत रेयर ऐसे केस होते हैं जहाँ पे अलग अलग डेटाबेस हो, बट उस हिसाब से करें तो ये डिफरेंट अप्रोच है।
ઓકે મેમ.
ओके, अगर लॉग इन का देखेंगे ना तब आपको ज्यादा आइडिया आएगा।
ઓકે.
फाइन, now after modifying inside your database name, restart your server. Now what is your next step? Next step is you have to create a model for it. Okay, so what I'm doing here, the command for that is php artisan make, whatever the command for controller, same command is there. Instead of controller we are just writing as a model and the name of model. Now the most important part here, your model name must be same with your table name. ये अगर भूल गए तो आपका कॉन्फ़िगरेशन अच्छे से नहीं होगा और बहुत सारी एरर आएगी। तो ध्यान रखना कि आपका मॉडल का जो भी नेम है वो आपके टेबल के नेम के साथ मैच होना चाहिए। तो यहाँ पे मेरा टेबल का नेम क्या है, रेस्टोरेंट है। सो मैं जब भी मॉडल क्रिएट करूंगी तब मुझे कौन सा नेम देना है, रेस्टोरेंट। ये मत भूलना कभी भी, whenever you are creating your model, make sure your model name and your table name must be same. Why we are doing this thing? So that whatever the data is here, all the data will be accessed through your model and it will automatically done. We don't have to configure and write anything. अगर आपको जो भी यहाँ का डेटा है वो आपके मॉडल में लेना है तो आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, आपका जो टेबल का नेम है वो सेम नेम आप मॉडल क्रिएट करो तब देना पड़ेगा. अब whatever the older versions are there, in that case compulsory the name of your model and your restaurant table name must be same. But in Laravel 8 some of the functionality they are providing advanced, and अगर आपने गलती से आपके मॉडल का नेम और टेबल का नेम ठीक से नहीं दिया और सेम नहीं दिया तो भी आप कॉन्फ़िगर कर सकते हो. सिंपल एक लाइन लिखनी पड़ती है और हो जाएगा. Okay, so here I'm just giving the name like restaurant and that is my table name. Then fire the command. Wait for some time. Okay, your model created successfully. Okay, now where you can find this one. So if you are using the older version, like if you have a Laravel 6 or 7, so when you go into the app folder, you will see here a restaurant.php file here. ओके यहाँ पे ऐप फोल्डर के अंदर ही आप बाहर को यहाँ restaurant.php फाइल आपको देखने को मिलेगी. बट इफ यू आर यूजिंग द Laravel 8, so the separate folder for the models are there. So just go into the models folder and you will see here your restaurant.php and this is your model. Okay, now what the thing that you have to do, अगर आपका मॉडल का नेम और आपका टेबल का नेम सेम नहीं है तो आपको क्या करना है, आपको जस्ट इतना लिखना है प्रोटेक्टेड, मतलब यहाँ पे आपको ये बोल देने का है कि मेरा कौन सा टेबल ये मॉडल के साथ मैप होगा. ओके, सो जस्ट गिव हियर द नेम ऑफ इट. सो इन माय केस इट इज अ रेस्टोरेंट. So just give here. If you are using older version then you don't have to give this one. But कभी कभी क्या होता है कि automatically map नहीं होता है तो this sentence you have to write like whatever the name of your table name is that you just put here. Okay, and your configuration will be done. So आपके रेस्टोरेंट टेबल का जो भी डेटा है वो पूरा का पूरा डेटा आपके मॉडल दैट द नेम ऑफ दैट मॉडल इज रेस्टोरेंट उसमें आ गया है. अब इसके नेम थ्रू, ये मॉडल का नेम है, उसके थ्रू हम पूरा का पूरा डेटा है वो डिस्प्ले कराएंगे. ओके, इज देयर एनी डाउट टिल हियर? Is there any doubt, students, till here? What we do, we just change the .env file where we just give the database name. Then after we create one model. Why we are creating the model? So that fetching and CRUD operation with your database becomes too easy. That's why we are going through all these things using model. अगर आप मॉडल यूज नहीं करते तो आपको क्वेरी बिल्डर फायर करना पड़ेगा, जो भी क्वेरी है वो लिखनी पड़ेगी, तो काफी सारी सिंटेक्स उसमें होती है. So better कि you create a model and just access and perform the operation on your database. So for simplicity, we are creating the model and in real time also people are using the model. Okay, fine. Now after that, what I have to do? So I have to create some function in my controller, okay, so that whatever the data inside my table is there, I can display inside this particular page. So I have to go into my resto controller part. Okay, so go to your resto controller. Already I create a function that is the list. Now what happened? Here I will access my data through my model. Okay, so what is my model name? So the first important thing, you can directly not write your model name here. Why? Because you are not importing your model. So whenever you want to use it, definitely you have to import your model. So how you can import it? So use this use keyword. Then after the entire path. So where you can find that path. So inside your model file, you will find your path like this: app/models. Just copy it and paste here, and then after again slash and give your model name. So generally जो भी class का name होता है वही file का name same ही होता है. Just pass here. Okay. Now you can use this one. अदरवाइज आप डायरेक्टली यहाँ पे लिखोगे तो एरर आएगा. फाइन. सो दैट्स व्हाई कंपल्सरी यू हैव टू इंपोर्ट इट व्हेनेवर you want to use any package. So in Java you are importing the things, right? Same way here you have to import your model. It is nothing but import model. Okay. नाउ जो भी डेटा है वो सारा का सारा डेटा मुझे डिस्प्ले कराना है. सो आई एम जस्ट रिटर्निंग दोस डेटा. एंड मुझे अगर सारा का सारा डेटा चाहिए तो मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? अगर यहाँ पे कुछ भी एक्सेस करना हो तो स्कोप रिजोल्यूशन ऑपरेटर यूज करना पड़ेगा और उसके बाद ऑल फंक्शन जस्ट यूज इट. So all function will fetch all the record from your model. Here you have to give the model name, and model name is automatically configured with your table, and all the data will be fetched. Now just check it out. ये हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है? Because हमने path तो पहले से ही दे दिया है. Then we don't require anything. Okay. It's coming back to here. Okay, my PHP artisan serve that I want to fire so that I can start my server, and then after I can perform everything. So wait for some time. अगर आपका सर्वर स्टार्ट नहीं है तो आप ऐसा कुछ दिखेगा. सो तब देख लेना कि आपका सर्वर अच्छे से स्टार्ट हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ. Okay. Okay, when I click on the listing part, okay, whatever the datas are there, all the data you can see here, it is coming in the JSON format. So that means my query is run successfully. All the data, like using only this all function, it is quite too easy. Only just you give the model name and just call the all function, and you will fetch all the data that is stored inside your database. Okay, as you can see here, like 101, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 12 IDs there. So you can also check it out here: 101, then 102, 103, 4, 5, and 12. So all the data is successfully fetched. अगर आप कोई भी ऑपरेशन करते हो, एटलीस्ट आप जनरली अलर्ट या इको कराते हो, तो यहाँ पे आप रिटर्न करा दो, उस हिसाब से वो डेटा दिखेगा, तो आपको अच्छे से पता चल जाएगा कि डेटा आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा. Okay, now what we have to do, we just want to display it in this, not in this format, we have to display it into the table format. So what we are doing here, I'm just storing these things into some variable, okay, like dollar data, and I will use it in future. Okay, so I'm just checking out again. Okay, so here I have to create one table. So I'm just go back to my list.blade.php file, and here I want some table. Okay, अगर आप scratch से start करोगे तो time लगेगा. Then what you just do, you just go into the bootstrap, write down like table bootstrap 4. Okay, whatever the simple table is there, you just copy that code and paste inside your list.plate.php file. Okay, so different samples are there. Like if you want to print data in this format, then you just copy this code. Okay, if you want to go ahead with this part, like gray shade of it, then you just copy it. We are just going ahead with the simple part. Whatever the table you like, you just go for it. That is up to you. Okay, I'm just going into the simple part. So this one, I want this way. So I'm just copying the data, okay, and pasting here. Okay, so this is my entire table. As you can see here, it is display or not. Okay, it is coming. So you don't have to start from the scratch. Otherwise, by to code for only this simple thing, it take like 20 or 30 minutes. So why don't just go for it? Use the bootstrap and just include it. Now we go ahead with the modification part. What I need here, ID, name, email and address. Okay, that is same inside my database column, like ID, name, email and address. Same way here, I'm just modifying it ID, name, email and address. So come back to here. Okay, one is ID, next is the name, email, last one is address. Okay, now these all are row, that is the static row. Okay, whatever the rows are there here, those are the static. But in our case, we don't know how many rows are there. So what we have to do, we have to put here a for each loop. Okay, so that every time the loop will be executed and your data is displayed accordingly. So for that we only required one row. So remove the other. Why? Because we just iterate the things. So we don't need this second and third row. Okay, so remove it. And here you just start your for each loop. So for that, at the rate for each, and here and the for each loop. So this way you have to write. ओके, सो यहाँ पे जब भी आपका इटरेशन स्टार्ट होगा तो पहली रो प्रिंट होगी, दूसरी रो, तीसरी रो, फोर्थ रो, लाइकवाइज योर इटरेशन विल बी परफॉर्म. अब द बिगेस्ट क्वेश्चन इज व्हेन आई स्टोर माय डेटा इनसाइड दिस डॉलर डेटा. ओके, अब मुझे क्या करना है, ये जो डॉलर डेटा है वो डेटा मुझे यहाँ पे चाहिए this list.blade.php फाइल में, बिकॉज वो डेटा के थ्रू मैं यहाँ पे आईडी प्रिंट कराऊंगी, नेम प्रिंट कराऊंगी, ईमेल एंड एड्रेस है वो प्रिंट कराऊंगी. बट द बिगेस्ट क्वेश्चन इज हाउ आई कैन पास दिस डॉलर डेटा into the another file. Anybody know that concept? How I can pass the parameter from one file to another file? So in the project through, we are just accessing small concepts also that you already learn in your lecture, how to pass the parameter from controller to view or through function. So that very small topic we also covering here. Okay. Now remember this thing, whenever you want to pass your data at that time, here when you just return this view, here you just pass as a parameter or as an argument, you just pass this data. So that way जो भी आपका डॉलर डेटा वेरिएबल है वो लिस्ट के फाइल में आप एक्सेस कर पाओगे. तो ये कैसे होगा, तो उसके लिए आपको लिखना पड़ेगा, जस्ट ओपन the square bracket, inside that write like data, because it is a data part, then use this symbol and just give the dollar data. This way you can pass the parameter to some view. So what is the meaning of it? So this dollar data you can access inside this list.blade.php file. Otherwise अगर आप directly लिखोगे यहाँ पे dollar data, then it will give you the error because here dollar data is undefined. Okay, so undefined variable type of error you will get. So for that what you have to do, you have to pass like this as a parameter inside your view. So यहाँ पे आप जब डॉलर डेटा वेरिएबल है वो पास करोगे तो ये लिस्ट व्यू है उसमें आप एक्सेस कर पाओगे. इसमें कुछ डाउट है why we are just passing this thing? Because my all the data are stored inside this dollar data part. इस वेरिएबल में मेरा पूरा का पूरा जो डेटाबेस का डेटा है वो यहाँ पे स्टोर हुआ है और वो मुझे कहाँ पे डिस्प्ले कराना है, list.blade.php फाइल में. तो वो मैं कैसे कराऊंगी, यहाँ पे अगर डायरेक्टली मैं डॉलर डेटा लिखूंगी तो वो एरर देगा. क्यों? क्योंकि वो अनडिफाइंड वेरिएबल है इस फाइल के लिए. Then what I'm doing here, I'm just passing this as a parameter like data, so it will interpret as a data and this is my variable name and I'm passing it into the list form. So is it clear till here? Is there any doubt till here? What about other students? Okay. Now I can access this dollar data. So I'm coming back to the list.blade.php file because यहाँ पे मुझे ID, name, email and address है वो print कराना है. तो as per the syntax of 4H, I'm just using this dollar data as dollar item. So I'm providing some alias here. Here you can give any name instead of item. You can just go ahead with the I also. That is up to you. So this is the syntax of your 4H where I'm just passing the actual data into this dollar item. So now through this dollar item, I can access each and everything. So here your copy is generated. So जो भी डॉलर डेटा में आपका डेटा था वो डॉलर आइटम में आ गया. Now I can access through dollar item. So how I can access it? So for that you need double curly bracket. Okay, just remember this is called the directives. Whenever you want to fetch or display any of data, so directive syntax is used. So that is the directive. If you learn the Node.js at that time, you will see in detail what is the directive. Then after I'm accessing only ID. So how I can do this? So for that you just pass the item, dollar item and arrow and then after ID. Okay. Same way here instead of ID, I'm just going there with the name part. So that is the name. Then after email, so what is the name you want to give here? So whatever the name inside your database, जो भी आपके database में column का name है, same name आपको यहाँ पे देना है, otherwise mismatch होगा, तो data automatically आएगा नहीं. Email and at last the address. Save it and just run it. I'm just checking out what kind of error is there. Okay, it's throwing exception. Fine. I'm just checking out this dollar is coming or not. Okay, just restart your server because many times there is an issue due to that also. Okay. List.data.php file. Just a second. I'm just checking out. Okay, instead of just going ahead with this 4, I'm just accessing that one, like it is coming here inside this or not. I'm just closing unnecessary files. Okay, inside here, just displaying my data is coming or not. So echo dollar data. Okay, it is not coming properly. Okay, till here my data is coming. Then after I'm just passing inside this one data and dollar data. Okay. As of now, I'm just commenting it and I'm accessing it through this one. I already use my model here. Okay, just a second. Okay, I'm again restarting it. Anytime this kind of error is coming. Just a second. My dollar data is not coming properly here. It is not printing well. So that is here. I already call it. I just written those things. You just write down this list function. The students who are going ahead with this part, you just write down this list function, and I'm just checking the list.blade.php file. Um, Parth, that error is due to, you just present your screen. Go back in your code. Okay, into the list.blade.php. ओके, यहाँ पे आपने डेटा पास नहीं किया ना, इसलिए दस पास द पैरामीटर वहाँ पे नहीं, आपने जब भी नहीं नहीं वहाँ पे तो आप नहीं कर सकते हो. जस्ट आफ्टर दिस लिस्ट जस्ट पुट कोमा, रिटर्न व्यू द लिस्ट, पुट कोमा आफ्टर दैट. वहाँ पे नहीं, अंदर पैरेंथेसिस के अंदर. हाँ, या कोमा, जस्ट ओपन द स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट, डबल इन्वर्टेड कोमा में लिखो डेटा. ओके, अब वो एरो है इक्वल्स टू एंड दी greater than, not single, equals to, yes. Okay, and then डॉलर डेटा, डोंट राइट इन्वर्टेड कॉमा आप वो खत्म कर दो वहां पे डॉलर डेटा के बाद में. यस, नाउ जस्ट यस, अब वहां पे डॉलर डेटा पास करो. ओके, आपका कर्सर एक मिनट, आपका कर्सर है वो एक मिनट आप जूम करो, आपका पूरा का पूरा. ओके, जहां पे पहली बार इन्वर्टेड कोमा में डेटा लिखा है वहां पे डॉलर नहीं लिखना है, डॉलर निकाल दो वहां पे. यस, अब सेव करो. अब list.blade.php फाइल में जाओ. अब यहाँ पे जब ओके, नाउ जस्ट चेक इट आउट. आ गए? फाइन. सेम प्रोसीजर दैट यू हैव टू फॉलो. मैं देखती हूँ, मेरा कभी कभी सर्वर के हिसाब से बहुत एरर आता है, कभी कभी बीच में सर्वर अगर रीस्टार्ट अच्छे से नहीं हो रहा है और मे बी डेटाबेस कनेक्टिविटी में कुछ प्रॉब्लम पोर्ट में आता है तो ये दिक्कत आती है. जस्ट आई एम रीस्टार्टिंग एवरी सर्विस and I'm presenting my screen. The syntax is same, there is no error in the syntax because in the case of Path it is working well. So there is a mistake in server. Everybody got this entire data or not? Like Path is already got. What about the other status? You have to write this one. Then after, inside your list.blade.php, here you have to write like this, for each. Okay, inside that dollar data, as store it into some, okay, and end for each, and in between, just write down the PR on TD. Okay, you can just copy it. Meanwhile, you just try out. ओके, ये लिखने के बाद सब आप ट्राई आउट करो कि कितना आपको कौन सी एरर आ रही है और पूरा डेटा दिख रहा है कि नहीं दिख रहा है, एवरीबडी. Once you're done with that, just acknowledge me. Then, same syntax that you have to write. Okay, Ishika, just give your status once you're done with that part. Okay, so here you will get the entire information once once you write all those things. Okay, as you can see here, I didn't change anything, but as I already told you, if in your case, if this kind of issue will be there, you just restart your server. The same code that we provide previously, same code I'm providing here also, there is no change in that. So sometimes this server related issue you may face, then you just restart your control panel also, because it is all about working with your database. So that's why it is happening. Okay, so this way you can fetch your entire data, and whatever the data in your database, same data you will see here. So this is your fetch operation. Once you're done with that part, just acknowledge me. We go ahead with the add restaurant part. In the next lab session, we also provide here some buttons like edit and delete button. So through that edit and delete, we can edit the record and update the record or delete the record here itself. Okay, so that task we will do. So in that way, all your CRUD operation will be performed. Then we go ahead with the login and register where we deal with the session. And then we go ahead with the middleware. So how we can provide the privilege to access any unauthorized user or any attack through this URL maybe happen, then how we can prevent those. So that way we can perform. Okay. Now we are going ahead with this add restaurant part. So when user will click on this add restaurant, so here one form will be displayed, and through that form you are just inserting those data in your database. Okay, just a second. Okay, so what we are doing here, for add restaurant, we need some page, right? So what we have to do, we come back here, we have to create a view, same procedure that we have to follow for same that we did in list.blade.php. So here we are creating add.blade.php. Okay, so your file is created, your view is created here. Copy this code that is inside the list.blade.php file. So we don't have to extend our layout here. Table part is not important for us, so remove it. Okay. Instead of list of restaurant, what we are doing here, add restaurant. Now, here, whenever you are dealing with the form part, you have to provide a two route. Why? Because one route is for viewing this entire view, and second route is for whenever the form will be there. So submit button is there. Okay. So when you submit, at that time you have to write some logic. Okay. So one is for displaying the view, and second for posting the data into your database. Why we don't merge these two things? Because for the view, we have to write like route, scope resolution, and view, and when user will click on the submit, at that time we have to create a route like this. So that's why we have to create a two different route. Are you getting my point till here? अब तक मैंने ये बोला कि आप एक route create करो, एक function के अंदर ही view को return करा दो. But यहाँ पे क्या होगा कि अगर आपने logic लिखने के बाद return कराया तो वो अच्छे से आपका data submit नहीं होगा. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to create a two separate different route. One is for displaying the entire form, and another is here our function will be called. And when you post your data, compulsory you have to write here a post method. Okay, get for fetching the data, view for viewing the view, that is the view file, and post means whenever you are submitting your form data. So compulsory you have to provide here a post. So that's why we have to create a two route. Is it clear till now? Any doubt? Clear? क्यों हम दो route create करते हैं? One for displaying the view and another for submitting the data into the database. ये दोनों मर्ज इसलिए नहीं कर सकते बिकॉज एक है वो पोस्ट मेथड आ जाएगी, दूसरी है वो व्यू मेथड आ जाएगी. Yes, just you have any mail for that interview? Parth?
મેમ મારે ટેલિફોનિક ઇન્ટરવ્યુ છે અત્યારે, ફોન આવ્યો તો હમણાં, સેકન્ડ રાઉન્ડ
Okay,
છે,
if
એટલે એમાં
any,
એનો મેલ નથી આવ્યો, મને ટેલિફોનિક ઇન્ટરવ્યુ છે.
okay, just provide a proof for that. Just take a screenshot of that particular things, okay, and
મેમ
just
એમાં
mail
કેમ
me.
પ્રોવાઈડ કરું, કઈ રીતે? કંઈક
ફોન
ટેલિફોનિક
તો આવ્યો
ઇન્ટરવ્યુ?
હતો ને?
અરે મેમ એમાં એવું હોય કે
ફોન.
કોલ આવ્યો ને તો અત્યારે કોલ બેક કરું છું તો એ લોકોને લાગતો નથી, કોક બીજાનું ચાલુ હોય છે, એટલે ગમે ત્યારે કોલ આવી શકે તો ડિસ્કનેક્ટ થઈ શકું, એટલે બીજું
Okay,
એટલે.
fine. Okay, fine. You can go now.
તો મેમ અટેન્ડન્સ મળશે કે કઈ રીતે?
I will provide you attendance, okay?
ઓકે, થેન્ક યુ મેમ.
Okay, so here we are just whatever the page we create, that is the add.blade.php file. So I want to display here when I click on this add restaurant button. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going back to this web.php file. Okay, here I want to provide first path. So what is my path? That is up to you, whatever you can write here. I'm just giving the slash add. So path and then after your view name. So which whenever user writes slash add, at that time which file you want to call. So I want to call add.blade.php file. So that way you can write like this. Okay. So once I go back and run here like add, at that time now see what kind of changes are there. Okay, so now you got the point. Like when user writes slash add, at that time my add.blade.php file will be displayed. Now user is not writing here, they are always clicking on your menu option. So what you have to do, just go to your layout.blade.php file here. Inside that add restaurant, here you have to provide the href, right? So just write like slash add and just check it out that is working or not. So if I'm just going to the home page, it is coming to home page. If I'm going to the add restaurant, it is coming to the add restaurant part. That means my routing works successfully. Now what I have to do here, I have to create one form. So how I can do this thing? So you know the steps for it. Form, bootstrap, 4. Okay. Come to this form, bootstrap. Okay, so there are different samples are there. I don't want this select or option. I want simple form. So this one is quite simple. Email address and password. We have to modify this thing. So I'm just copying this code and just pasting inside my add.blade.php file. So whatever the code that you copy, just paste here. Okay, my code is pasted here. I just removing unnecessary field. Label, inside that label 4 attribute is not necessary for me, so I'm just removing it. This message like we will never share your email, so that is again not important for me. So according to your requirement, you have to go ahead with this part. Instead of email address, first I want a name. Okay, type I'm just providing the text. ID is not important for me, so I'm just removing it. Again, this description or describe by is not important for me. I'm just removing it. Inside the placeholder, instead of enter email, I'm just giving enter name. And for each and every input, you have to give the name. Why? Because you use this name to access this different data. Okay, so that's why you have to provide the specific name to each and every input field. So this is my final thing. So now just I'm copying and paste here. This is my email. So this way you just arrange one and then after copy it. Very small thing you have to change. Name you have to change. Then after placeholder you have to change, that is enter email. And last one is your address. So this way you can modify any of the code. Okay. And for your project, you have to do same approach. Okay. Now just check it out how it is look like. Okay, as you can see here, your form is created like name, email and address is there. Now, why I didn't write here ID? Can anybody tell me why ID field I not added? Only name, email and address is added. Yes, very good. Because ID is a unique and it is a auto increment. That's why अगर user यहाँ पे ID देगा तो वो conflict होगा. That's why we don't have to provide ID. Only the 3 field is sufficient. Now, if you are used to with this bootstrap, you can easily, like the width of your input field is too huge. So what you can do, you can just either apply your CSS or the by default class is also there so that you can reduce the width of your entire input field. So the class name is like call dash sm dash 8 or 6, whatever you want to give, that you can give. You can also create your own class. Okay, now it is look properly. Okay, so this way you can create a form. Now, what you have to do, when user will input the data here, for example, I'm writing like krishna@gmail.com and some address. So when I submit, so submit means my form method must be post because I'm submitting the data. So the method is post. Okay, and here I want to provide some action. Okay, action means when you just press on submit, where you want to redirect or either you want to call any function or not. That is the meaning of this action field. Okay, so when I submit, at that time I want to call one function and that function will give us the insert related query. So where I can go for that, I'm just closing unnecessary file. I have to go into the restocontroller.php and inside here I'm just creating one function for the add. Okay, so just create one function add. Now whenever you work with the form, at that time what happened, when you just click on the submit, that means you are using here HTTP request and response. That means your data, whenever you are just submit your entire thing, your data will be stored inside HTTP request. You are requesting your database that you just store this entire thing, right? So whenever you are just posting your data at that time, the request, HTTP request will help you to just store the data in your database. So when you work with the either edit or add your or update operation, at that time you have to compulsory pass your request. That is here request, that is your HTTP request, and just give some variable, and through this variable, a second, dollar req, and through this variable you can access all the data that is filled by your user. Now if you compare this concept with your normal traditional approach, at that time what we are doing, we are accessing the data. If your method is post, then dollar underscore post global array will help you. If you remember, have you remember that part, like dollar underscore post global array will be there, and through that you can access each and every field. Another is like dollar underscore get is there, another is dollar underscore session is there, if you remember that part. So same way here, you can use this request, that is your HTTP request, and you just return this so that you have an idea like my data, whatever the data that is input by my user, that is coming correctly or not. So what I'm doing here, I'm just printing that part, and for that which function I have to call, input function. Now what is the meaning of this input function? So whatever the data is input by your user, all those data will be displayed using this input function. So you can access all the data through this input function. Now जब भी आप ये पास करोगे तो यहाँ पे कुछ भी नहीं दिखेगा, क्यों? बिकॉज आपने ये जो फंक्शन है उसके लिए राउट तो बनाया ही नहीं है. देन यू जस्ट गो एंड क्रिएट अ राउट फॉर इट. So I already told you, when you just post your data, at that time you have to write like this, that is the post. So ये आपको नहीं भूलना है. अगर यहाँ पे post नहीं लिखोगे तो आपका डेटा अच्छे से insert नहीं होगा. So definitely you have to write here a post. And just copy this one because we are calling the function here. Copy it and paste it. And here your add function will be called. And what path you want to provide? So you can provide the same path, that is the add. Okay, here add. अगर यहाँ पे कंफ्यूजन ये हो रहा है कि ये यहाँ पे भी आपने ऐड दिया और यहाँ पे भी ऐड दिया तो ये कैसे वर्क करेगा, तो उसका क्या मीनिंग है, जब भी ये ऐड यूजर आपको लोकल होस्ट कॉलन ऐड टाइप करेगा तब आपका व्यू क्रिएट होगा और जो भी व्यू वाली फाइल है वो डिस्प्ले होगी. उसके बाद जब यूजर सबमिट पे क्लिक करेगा तब ये पोस्ट वाले में जाएगा और ये ऐड फंक्शन कॉल करेगा. सो डोंट कंफ्यूज हियर. इफ यू आर गिविंग द सेम नेम, इट इज फाइन, इट इज नॉट कन्फ्लिक्टिंग एनीवेयर, बिकॉज सेम पेज, एक ही पेज में आपको पोस्ट करना है और व्यू भी दिखाना है. दैट्स व्हाई यू कैन पास द सेम पाथ. इज इट क्लियर एवरीबॉडी? Clear or not, why I'm creating the view and post individually and why I'm just giving the same name? Clear or not? Is there any doubt or any confusion? Can I repeat any of the concept? Okay. Now come back to your add.blade.php. So अगर यहाँ पे आप सबमिट पे करोगे तब कुछ भी नहीं होगा, क्यों? बिकॉज आपने जो add.blade.php फाइल है यहाँ पे एक्शन में कुछ लिखा ही नहीं. फंक्शन विल बी कॉल. Okay, so accordingly your add function will be called. And okay, now just I'm going back to my browser, save it, check it out, refreshing it. ओके, आई एम पासिंग एनी डेटा। अभी यहाँ पे हमने डेटाबेस में स्टोर कराने के लिए नहीं कुछ लिखा है कोड, बट एटलीस्ट देखते हैं कि जो भी डेटा है वो यूजर ने एंटर किया है वो हमारे वेरिएबल में आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा। So once you submit, it will give you some error, that is the page expired. Now what is this page expired? So whenever you submit your data, at that time one concept is there, that is the CSRF. Anybody remember the CSRF? What is CSRF? Anybody remember, like when you submit your form, at that time after form tag you have to write like this, CSRF, @CSRF directive you have to use. So what is it? It is a cross site request forgery. Now what is it? So अभी भी ऐसा होता है कि जब भी ये रिक्वेस्ट आती है तो कोई अननेसेसरी और अनऑथराइज यूजर है, वो कोई भी डेटा डाल देता है और वो जो भी डेटा है वो डेटाबेस में स्टोर भी हो जाता है। वो डेटा इधर वैलिड हो कि ना हो, अगर एज है तो उसमें कुछ भी डाल देता है और उस तरीके से कोई भी डेटा है वो आपके डेटाबेस में स्टोर हो रहा है। अब ये क्या करेगा, CSRF है वो जो भी अननेसेसरी और जो भी अटैक्स होते हैं और मेलिशियस एक्टिविटी होती है उसको प्रिवेंट करेगा। कैसे? So whenever you just submit your data, at that time each time your token is generated. For each submission your token is generated and it is a unique for that particular data, and उससे पता चल जाएगा कि ये वैलिड डेटा है कि नहीं, डेटा नहीं है, और ये कहाँ से आया है, कौन सी वेबसाइट से ये हमको मिल रहा है। All the information we will get. So is there any malicious things are there, we can easily detect it. So this CSRF is always used to prevent the attack and it is always used for some security purpose. So remember the full form of it, how we can handle it if you got this kind of error. So that means you have to add here a CSRF. So that is the cross-site request forgery, and it will check it out every time from where your request is coming and it is valid or not. It will attach a token every time. So once I just write @CSRF and I just check it out, refresh it and check it out, it is working or not. Okay, I'm just coming back to the original. Okay, this is my entire page. I'm going to the add restaurant. Okay, I'm just writing some data. I'm submitting it. Okay, now you can see here my data is coming successfully inside my this request variable. What I do here inside the function, I'm just storing everything into the $ERV. Now using this $ERV, I will store the data into my database. So यहाँ तक का काम हमारा पूरा का पूरा क्लियर हो गया। Now जैसे कि आप देख रहे हो यहाँ पे एक टोकन जनरेट हो रहा है and that is a unique for each submission. Here I just write the name, that is krishna@gmail.com and ABC. That is working successfully. That means यहाँ तक हमें कुछ भी एरर नहीं आ रही है। Are you getting my point till here? Is there any doubt, students? Okay, now what we are doing, we are just updating and storing those data. Okay, तो यहाँ पे हम क्या करेंगे कि इसके थ्रू हम क्या करेंगे कि एक पूरा का पूरा जो मॉडल है हमारा, because we have to use our model. Through the model you can insert the data, you can fetch the data. So what we have to do, we have to create one instance for your model. So I'm just creating one instance. How I can create? So same structure like new, and then after give the restaurant, that is the model name. Just a second. So what is the meaning of it? I'm just creating the instance of my model, and through this instance, I'm just adding those data inside my database. Okay. So how I can do this thing? So जो भी यूजर ने फॉर एग्जांपल नेम में कृष्णा डाला है, तो वो डेटा कहाँ से आएगा? तो वो डेटा कहाँ पे है? रिक्वेस्ट, दैट इज REQ। उसके बाद मुझे इनपुट लिखना पड़ेगा, जैसे कि हमने प्रीवियस केस में रिटर्न कराया था, तो पूरा का पूरा डेटा आ रहा था, बट मुझे स्पेसिफिकली नेम चाहिए, तो नेम के लिए मुझे क्या लिखना पड़ेगा? ये। सो ये डेटा क्या है? जो यूजर ने जो भी फॉर्म है उसमें जो इनपुट कराया है, वो इसके थ्रू आप एक्सेस कर पाओगे। अब ये डेटा मुझे क्या करना है? मुझे ये इंस्टेंस में स्टोर करना है। तो उसके लिए मैं क्या करूंगी? जो भी डेटा है वो उसके लिए मैं ऐसा लिखूंगी, रेस्टो एंड नेम, and this way your name will be stored inside my instance. Same way I have to go ahead with the email and the address. So पहले मैं क्या करती हूँ? मैं मॉडल का, क्योंकि मॉडल के थ्रू ही आप इंसर्ट कर सकते हो, अदरवाइज नहीं कर सकते हो, इसलिए कंपलसरी आपको इंस्टेंस बनाना पड़ेगा। एंड जो भी इंस्टेंस बनाया उसमें आप नेम रख दो, ईमेल रख दो। ये आपका क्या है? आपका कॉलम का नेम है। और ये कौन सा नेम है? अगर मैं स्पेसिफिकली बोलूं तो आपने जब फॉर्म क्रिएट किया था तब यहाँ पे जो नेम दिया होता है वही नेम है। और अगर सेम रखते हो तो कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं रहेगा। तो बेटर यू जस्ट गिव द सेम नेम, तो कोई भी कंफ्यूजन और याद रखने की जरूरत ही नहीं। अगर डिटेल में जाओ तो ये कौन सा नेम है? आपका फॉर्म का नेम है। जब भी इनपुट फंक्शन आता है, दैट मीन्स योर फॉर्म इनपुट फील्ड, तो जो भी आपने दिया होगा वहां पे नेम वो देना है। और ये कौन सा है? क्योंकि आपने मॉडल का इंस्टेंस बनाया, दैट मीन्स इट इज डायरेक्टली अटैच टू योर डेटाबेस टेबल। सो डेटाबेस टेबल में जो कॉलम है उसका नाम क्या है? नेम ही है। तो मुझे कुछ याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। सेम वे ईमेल का कर देती हूँ, एंड सेम वे एड्रेस। ओके, नाउ सारा का सारा डेटा मेरे इंस्टेंस में आ गया। अब मुझे इंसर्ट करने के लिए क्या करना होगा? तो उसके लिए मुझे एक ही फंक्शन कॉल करना पड़ेगा थ्रू माय इंस्टेंस, दैट इज द सेव। ओके, दिस सेव फंक्शन, जैसे यहाँ पे ऑल किया मतलब आपका पूरा का पूरा डेटा फेच हो गया। सेव फंक्शन विल यूज टू इंसर्ट योर डेटा। ओके, और उसके बाद मुझे क्या कराना है? रिटर्न कर देना। जब भी ऐड हो जाए उसके बाद मैं रीडायरेक्ट कर दूंगी। ये पूरा का पूरा पेज कहाँ चला जाएगा? लिस्टिंग वाले में। ओके, सो आई एम जस्ट रीडायरेक्टिंग इट टू माय लिस्ट पेज, सो मुझे पता चल जाए कि इसमें लिस्ट में आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा है। So now we will check it out, it is working or not. Okay. पहले से ही स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा, so refresh it, remove it. Okay, just check it out. What are these SQL state? Okay. Okay. Now just submitting. At that time, you will get some error. What is the solution of it? That I just want to tell you. अब देखो, ये चीज मैंने अभी इसलिए जनरली मैं पहले ही बोल देती हूँ, अभी इसलिए बोल रही हूँ ताकि आप समझ पाओ कि ये एरर क्या बोलना चाहती है। सो व्हेन यू यूज द eloquent and model, at that time by default updated ad and the created ad column is generated, बट यहाँ पे आपको नहीं दिख रही है। क्यों? क्योंकि आपने तो मैन्युअली क्रिएट किया हुआ है। तो अब क्या करोगे? क्योंकि यहाँ पे तो कुछ डेटा ही नहीं है, तो आप इंसर्ट कैसे कराओगे उसमें? आपके पास तो नेम, ईमेल, एड्रेस ही है. सो व्हेन यू यूज your eloquent, that is the model concept, remember this thing, your updated ad and created ad column is automatically generated. We are not creating anything. अगर आप माइग्रेशन के थ्रू करते हो तो ये डिफॉल्ट बाय डिफॉल्ट आएगा ही. अगर नहीं करते हो और ये ट्रेडिशनल अप्रोच से आप क्रिएट करते हो तो ये कॉलम है वो आपको दिखेगी नहीं. तो अब मुझे ये कॉलम ओमिट करनी है और इग्नोर करनी है, और अगर मुझे इसके साथ डील ही नहीं करना है तो मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? Then you have to go to the model, that is the restaurant model. Here you just simply write this way, public, this is nothing, this is your timestamp. Here updated at and created ad means your timestamp, so you have to just false your timestamp so that you don't have to deal with that. Created at and updated at give you the date and time when you created, so just provide here the timestamps and provide the false. Okay, and then just come back to here and refresh it. Okay, as you can see, my data is inserted successfully. Yes, Harsh, I know, but at least I can finish my concept. Otherwise, ये पूरा का पूरा एक आपको समझ में नहीं आएगा तो कैसे पता चलेगा? Okay, so that way you can see your entire thing is inserted and you can display here. So this record I inserted successfully. When we come into the next lab session, we just put here some alert box so that we can have an idea like my data is inserted successfully. That part we will see. But when we meet in next lab session, you just do these things. Till here, everybody have an idea, and you have a code for this one. Till here, you have to complete. Is it clear, everybody? Yes or no? Okay, I'm just quickly taking your attendance. I know the timing is already there. Okay, Dev. Okay, Harsh, Ishika, Komal, Mohit Raj, Mojil, Nikhil, Rajkumar, and Riti. Okay. Thank you all. Have a nice day and all the best for your mid semester. Do well in every subject. Okay, you can leave the meeting. Thank you all.